You can only pretend for so long before the silence starts to speak for you. This is a story about a man named Henry. He was just an ordinary person, but his story might feel familiar. It might even feel a little bit like yours. To everyone who knew him, Henry was a picture of strength, calm and focused. He was always composed. His friends saw him as dependable. His family saw him as their rock. He went to work early, came home late, and never complained. If you asked him how he was doing, he would smile and say, "I'm good." But deep down, Henry couldn't remember the last time he had genuinely felt good. He had mastered the art of silence, the kind that grows when you've carried too much for too long, and you just tell yourself, "I'll deal with it later." His life was a quiet war, fought behind a calm face. A man who looked fine on the outside but was slowly and quietly falling apart on the inside. When his father died, he didn't cry. It wasn't that he didn't hurt him. It hurt him terribly. But somewhere inside, Henry believed that crying wouldn't change anything. So he had grown up in a home where emotions were a weakness. His father was loving but very distant. He showed that he cared through hard work and money and not through words. So when his father passed, Henry didn't just lose a parent. He lost the one person he had always tried to make proud. So he buried the pain. When his relationship ended, he told everyone he was fine. He even laughed about it. He said it was for the best. But at night, the pain was deep. That relationship had made him feel seen for the very first time. And losing it made him feel invincible all over again. Whenever life hurts, Henry did the same thing. He found something else to focus on. Work or other people's problems. He was the healer who stopped tending to his own wounds. Healing and helping others made him feel useful, even when he felt completely empty inside. And the more he did this, the more he convinced himself that he was fine, because being needed made him forget that he needed help. Henry thought that if he ignored what he felt long enough, those feelings would just fade away. He believed that one day, the pain would dissolve on its own. But he didn't realize a crucial truth. Emotions don't disappear. They don't fade because you refuse to heal them or feel them. They wait and hide in the corners of your heart, patient and unresolved. And when they've waited for too long, they start to find new ways to speak. Sometimes through a sudden anger over little and small things. Sometimes an exhaustion you can't explain. Sleepless nights, headaches, and the kind of tight, heavy feeling in your chest that you just call stress. But most times it is not just stress. It is the emotions you locked away for too long, begging and finally going to spearhead. Henry didn't know that his silence had become a language his heart, his mind, and his body were all trying to translate. He thought he was being strong by holding everything in. He believed silence was strength. The painful truth was that Henry was not okay at all. He had mastered appearing calm while carrying an ocean of pain inside. And one day, as all ignored emotions eventually do, it broke. Now, ignoring your emotions doesn't mean you are cold or heartless. Most of the time, it means the exact opposite. It often means that at some point in your life, you were taught, directly or indirectly, that your feelings were a problem, that they were too much or too inconvenient for others to handle. Maybe you cried once and someone told you to be strong and toughen up. Maybe you opened up and you were mocked or misunderstood. Or maybe life just kept throwing hard moments at you until you realized that showing emotion only made it worse. Henry learned that lesson early. As a child, when he fell and got hurt, his mom would say, "Be strong, Henry, don't cry." She didn't mean harm at all. She wanted him to be tough enough for this world and to be able to face the world. But those simple words planted a seed. Henry started to believe that crying meant weakness, and that weakness was something he couldn't afford or ever afford. So he stopped crying. He stopped talking about what hurt him. He stopped saying when he was scared or confused or disappointed. He learned to stay quiet, even when the noise inside his heart was deafening. Over time, that silence became his armor, his way of protecting himself from pain. But in trying to protect himself, he built a prison instead. He became an expert at pretending. He could smile through heartbreak, laugh while feeling empty, carry on as if nothing was wrong. And people praised him for it. Some people called him strong, mature, and composed. But they never saw the cost of that calmness. They never saw the heaviness that came with always having to look okay. So when you suppress emotions too long, or long enough, something strange happens to you. You start to lose touch with yourself. You stop recognizing your old feelings. You can't tell when you are sad because sadness has become your default. You can't tell when you are angry because you learn to swallow it before it even reaches your lips. You can't even tell when you are happy because part of you is always waiting for something to go wrong. Henry didn't know it then, but every time he said I am fine, he was building a wall, one brick at a time. A wall that kept pain out, but also kept love out. A wall that stopped disappointment, but also stopped connections. Slowly and without realizing it, he wasn't just suppressing emotions anymore. He was suppressing himself. And the tragedy was that nobody told him the truth. That real strength is not found in pretending you are okay. It is found in admitting the truth when you are not. Because when you ignore your emotions long enough, you also bury your ability to feel joy, peace, and connection. You bury the very things that make life meaningful. And in the process, you slowly lose the person you are meant to be. So years later, Henry began to notice subtle changes. He started with unusual tiredness and exhaustion. No matter how much he slept, he woke up tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. The tired that lived deep in his soul. Mornings felt heavy. His chest carried a weight that followed him everywhere. He dragged himself through the day. Everything felt mechanical, like he was living life on autopilot. Conversations were draining. Smiles felt forced. Even laughter didn't reach his eyes anymore. Then came the irritability. Small things began to set him off and piss him off. A delayed message, a misplaced item, a minor mistake. It wasn't people around him. It was a storm inside him that he had ignored for too long. His patience was gone because his emotional tank was empty. He had nothing left to give. At first, Henry blamed stress. He told himself that he was just overworked. But deep down, he knew something was off. Something far deeper than stress. His body had become a storage room, an archive of every emotion he had ever refused to face. Every heartbreak he never grieved, every disappointment he pushed aside, every tear he swallowed, all of it stored inside him, and now that storage was overflowing. His body began to speak the language his mouth has refused to speak. The headaches, the tight chest, and the random anxiety, they were all messages, signals from the body. Suppressed emotions don't die. They simply wait for moments of weakness to resurface. And Henry's body was finally demanding to be heard. He was still walking and still talking, but he wasn't living at all. His body was functioning, but his soul was tired. And that's what happens when emotions go unheard for too long. They don't disappear, they turn your peace into noise. So the longer it went on, the more Henry drifted away from himself. The things that once made him happy felt dull and meaningless. He felt a loneliness that no amount of company would fix. Being with people drained him. Being alone felt worse. He was trapped inside his own skin. So one evening after another long day, Henry walked into his apartment, and the silence wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. He sat on his bed, scrolling through his phone, trying to drop out and drown out the noise in his mind. Then, without meaning to, he stumbled upon an old photo. It was him and his dad years ago fixing a broken radio on a warm afternoon. His father's hands were covered in grease, his face lit with a gentle smile. It wasn't a special picture, but something about it hit differently that night. He stared at it, and as he did, something inside him began to crack. The air felt heavier. Memories rushed back. The laughter, the warmth, the loss. All the grief he had buried came rushing up at once. The heartbreak, the anger, the loneliness, all of it broke free. And for the first time in years, Henry didn't fight it. He didn't swallow it. He didn't tell himself to be strong. He just let it come. The tears started slow, then turned into sobs. Deep, uncontrollable sobs. Years of pain poured out of him like a flood. And in that moment, he realized something painful but very freeing. He had not been strong all those years. He has just been numb to emotions. He had mistaken numbness for strength. So a few days later, Henry met an old friend, Daniel. Daniel had noticed Henry's silence and reached out. And as they talked, Henry found himself opening up. He talked about his breakdown, the emptiness. Daniel listened quietly, then he leaned forward and said, "Henry, you've been carrying this weight alone for too long. You don't have to anymore. You can give it to Jesus. He already carried the pain you are trying to bear. You just need to let him in." At first, Henry didn't know how to respond. He had heard those words before, but this time something was different. Daniel's gentleness, his conviction, and everything, it touched Henry. So Daniel continued, "You keep trying to fix everything, but healing doesn't start with effort. It starts with surrender. Jesus is not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to come just as you are, broken, tired, and empty. And when you give him your burden, he gives you peace." So that night, for the first time in a long time, Henry prayed. And it wasn't just a fancy kind of prayers. It was raw, filled with tears and honesty. He told Jesus everything, every hidden emotion, every mistake, and every fear. And something beautiful happened. As he poured out his heart, that tightness in his chest, the one that had been there for years, began to ease off. The heaviness started to lift. A deep, quiet peace settled over him. It felt like someone had finally taken the weight off his shoulders. And in the days that followed, Henry made a choice to walk with Jesus. He found a community of believers who welcomed him. They prayed together, they talked about real struggles. They didn't pretend to be perfect. And so for the first time in years, Henry felt loved and understood. He began to wake up with a new kind of strength. Not the strength to suppress pain, but the strength to face it with God beside him. The emptiness slowly filled with purpose. The silence that felt heavy now became a space for prayer. Henry's healing didn't happen overnight, but with every prayer, every moment in God's presence, he found more peace. He wished that once they find him, no longer controlled him, because this time, he wasn't carrying it alone. They finally understood what Jesus meant when he said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And so for the first time in his life, Henry rested and found peace. Now the truth is, many of us are living like Henry's former self. We wear invincible masks. We smile, we walk, we laugh when needed. But deep down, we are hurting quietly. So we need to remember that silence doesn't heal pain. It is expression that does. When you keep everything bottled up, the weight doesn't disappear. It only sinks deeper. So I encourage you, find someone you can open up to, someone you trust, whether a friend, a mentor, or a counselor. Talking doesn't make you weak at all. It is one of the bravest things to do. Isolation is a silent killer. It slowly drains your joy and hardens your heart. The human soul wasn't designed to heal or live in isolation. It was designed to heal in love. And that love begins with God. When you understand his love, not as a religion but as a relationship, you realize you were never meant to carry life alone. His love restores what pain tried to destroy. So be kind to yourself. Let God fill you first. Let Jesus into your heart, not just as a believer but as a companion, a healer, and a rest for your weary soul. Don't keep living isolated, silent, and heavy. Seek help. Find a community of believers who walk in genuine love. Let them remind you that you are not alone and that your story still matters, because Jesus truly loves you more than you can ever imagine. And his love is still the safest place to bring your pain, your tears, and your truth. So thank you for watching. I believe you've been blessed by this story. And I want to urge you to subscribe. This is a new channel and we want videos like this to reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much. Stay loved.